The issue we are presenting is racism in sport.
Racism in sport touches every corner of the globe, from our young children on the local football or soccer field to our international stars. Whilst these attitudes are not commonly displayed in public outbursts, it is evident that racist attitudes remain strong in Australian sport.
What's the Score was a survey of cultural diversity and racism in Australian sport. It was written and produced by the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission in 2006. The report details the relevant issues of racism and vilification experienced by our marginal groups across the many sporting codes. This confronting report exposes racism as a barrier preventing many citizens from participating in sports within their communities.
Sport is an important part of our identity as Australians. It brings communities together, playing a very important social and cultural role. Sport encourages participation, integration and diversity. It has long been seen as an area of society that is capable of breaking down social, religious and cultural barriers. Even with this unique capability, unfortunately, racism is still evident within all sports. One could expect that with a mutual love of the game and a genuine respect for an individual's talent, that this would be enough to put aside differences. However, this has not been the case. The sporting field brings out a competitive side in many participants, providing a fertile ground for hurtful and demoralising comments fueled by jealousy and bad sportsmanship.
Racism in sport is a highly complex issue and can be seen and demonstrated from many angles and levels. Racism, discrimination, harassment or vilification can be instigated by players, coaches, officials or spectators. Racism in sport is ever present across all aspects of Australian media. In a country that supports the motto of fair go and promotes the acceptance of multiculturalism, are we really portraying the real attitudes of Australians?
Racism in sport is not confined to our shores, but is a common issue across the globe. These attitudes appear to be more accepted in some cultures than in others. Racism in sport is everybody's business, and it is everybody's responsibility to ensure that their sporting association and clubs are inclusive and welcoming. Elite athletes provide important role models for our children, as do parents, coaches, players and administrators. Local sporting clubs are the heart of communities and bring together people from different backgrounds and cultures, with different abilities and attributes. Racism, while being unlawful, is hurtful and detrimental to the young members of our society. Sport provides a wonderful playing field where our differences should be put aside and our focus should be on the love of the game.
As much as we are led to believe that racism in sport does not exist anymore, it does. Our chosen issue highlights important social issues that need to be discussed and investigated. Students need to appreciate and understand the importance that difference need not be so different.
The teaching episode will be a fun and informative cultural day for Year 5 students focusing on racism in sport. The day will consist of 6 main topics to investigate with a group reflection.
A collaborative inquiry will begin our Culture Day of activities to encourage all class members to think about what is fair and what is not, what it means to be different, and a whole range of inquiry questions to spark thought and dialogue. Letting the students discover information for themselves helps give the learning meaning by connecting it to the real world.
The next part of the Cultural Day of activities will consist of students forming groups to assist in providing a cooperative learning environment. Students will become an expert on a subtopic and then will guide this topic with the other students. Students will be divided into 5 groups with 6 students per group. Each student will then receive a number from 1 to 6. Students will then move on to this station that correlates with their number.
Each station will be set up with pre-existing materials and information provided by the teacher. The students will become an expert on a particular topic provided at their station. These experts will then return to their original group and begin to rotate with their group through the numbered stations. Each station task will be led by the expert of that particular station. The groups will not only need to investigate information, they will also have tasks to complete. These tasks will consist of posters, brochures, newspaper articles, role play and PowerPoint presentations.
We will now visit each of these stations that the students will become experts to show what they will be expected to achieve on the cultural day of activities. Station 1. Positives that sport brings to communities. In groups, students are to design a poster focusing on the positive impact that sport brings to communities and individuals, using the following focus questions as a guide for their poster. What are the benefits that sport brings to communities? What influences does sport have on bridging social and cultural gaps? How does community sport support integration and diversity? What support is available for community sporting associations to assist with promoting multiculturalism?
Station 2. Media in Sport. Students are to produce an informative brochure showing the positive and negative impact the media has on racism in sport, using the following focus questions as a guide for their brochure. Is the media important and how does it impact sport? What are the positives and negatives for the media's involvement in sport? How do the media affect our thoughts on certain races being involved in sport? How can the media help remove racism in sport?
Station 3. Racism in Australian sport. In groups, students are to create and type a newspaper article discussing racism in sport, using the following questions as a guide for their article. Define racism. Does racism exist in sport? Why does race matter? Should race matter? Do you know of any media stories about racism in sport? These could be used as examples in your article.
Station 4. Racism in Global Sport. Students will perform a role play depicting an international conference targeting the global issue of racism in sport. Students are to use the discussion question below to guide their performance. What is racism? Is racism in sport a global problem? Where does racism in sport occur? From the article, Spain struggles to tackle sport racism, what are your thoughts on the way racism is tolerated in Spain? Does action need to be taken? If so, what action is required?
Station 5. Indigenous Australians in Sport. Students are to create individual posters of their favourite Indigenous Australian sports person. They will include information on the sport that they play, the level they compete or competed at, their achievements, any struggles they had getting into the game, and any racism they may have encountered in their chosen sport. Students should consider the following questions to guide their thoughts. List some famous Indigenous Australians in sport. What limitations do Indigenous Australians have regarding professional sport? An example could be access to sporting facilities. What are some of the traditional sports Indigenous Australians played? What impact does sport have on Indigenous Australians?
Station 6. Community-based sport. Students are to create a PowerPoint presentation detailing the impact that sporting clubs have on communities. What impact does this have on racism in local clubs? What can local sporting clubs do to promote diversity within and help kick racism out of sport? Some images will be provided to help get discussion started. What are the positives that sport brings to communities? Does community-based sport help stamp out racism in sport? What can sporting communities do to help remove racism in sport? From the pictures, can you describe what you think is occurring? What help is available for people experiencing racism in their club?
Conclusion and reflection. As a class group, students will form a circle and discuss the following questions as a collaborative inquiry. What is racism in sport? Do you think media fuels the issue of racism in sport? What measures can be taken to prevent this from occurring? How can we expel racism from sport? How can community sport help combat racism in sport? What can we do as an individual?
Sharing with our school community. Group and individual posters are to be put on display around the school and in the library to promote awareness of racism in sport.